Our guest speakers today are from St. Louis schools in Michigan and the Flipped Learning Network. In this roundtable discussion, you will gain the perspective of parents, teachers, administrators, and thought leaders on the best practices in school-to-home communications in a flipped learning environment. Let's meet our panelists. Steve, let's go ahead and start with you and just give us a little brief bio and introduce yourself.
Hi, welcome to the webinar. I'm Steve Kelly. I'm a high school teacher in St. Louis, Michigan. I teach upper-level mathematics, algebra 2, pre-calculus, calculus. I am a National Board certified teacher, and I'm also a presidential finalist for this year. I'm pretty excited about that. And again, my Twitter is the @BigKXCountry, and it looks like I am running the whole ship here for a little while, so I probably won't be checking my Twitter for another hour. My deepest apologies.
Okay, thank you. If Kevin is able to join us, Kevin is also a teacher there at St. Louis Schools with you, and also your principal, Chris Macklin, and both of them are kind of tied up right now with school stuff, so if they're able to join, we'll bring them on in a little bit. The next panelist is Linda. Go ahead and give us a little background about yourself.
Hi, I'm Linda Bader, and I'm a parent of 3 teenagers. My daughter is 18. She graduated last year from St. Louis High School. She's a freshman in college now. And I have twin boys who are juniors this year. They're 16. And all 3 of them have experienced the flipped classrooms at St. Louis High School, and it's been a positive experience for all of us.
Wonderful. Thank you. And last but certainly not least, Kari, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Wonderful. I'm Kari Arfstrom, and I'm the Executive Director for the Flipped Learning Network. We're a not-for-profit organization that was founded just about 2 years ago, and we're the only organization for and by flipped educators. And that's really important to distinguish, and I'll talk a little bit more about it in a few minutes. But I invite everyone who is participating today to get really actively involved in the question and answer off to the side. This is where, the webinar will really take off and be robust. And feel free to answer each other and jump in and participate at any time through that Q&A box on your right-hand side of the screen.
Perfect. Thank you, Kari. Now, before we get started, we'd like to put up a little poll. So, Carrie, if you could put up the poll, off in your control panel, you should see a poll there. We want to know how long have you been flipping your classroom. So go ahead and select one of those and press the submit button, and then we'll be able to see what the mix of our audience is today. We're going to give you
Thanks, Carrie. This is Kari, and I'm actually going to just run through that quickly because there is sort of an inside joke in number E there, so I want to make sure that our participants today know that. So if you could just click on the poll question if you're brand new to flipped learning, if you've been at it less than a year, if you've been at it a year or more, have you been at it for more than 2 years? Or are you with John Bergman and Aaron Sams? And they're the 2 gentlemen who literally wrote the book on flipped learning. And so I just wanted to explain who John and Aaron are.
Perfect. Thank you for that clarification. And Carrie, if it looks like most of the audience has responded, let's go ahead and close the poll and see what our results look like.
Oh.
Wow.
This is great. We will tailor our comments accordingly.
Well, yeah, but it's all over the board.
I know it is. So, well, wonderful. Well, thank you. This is great. I love doing polls and to see where people are with their flipped learning. And so it looks like most of you have been at it for a year or less. So thank you for joining us today, and we hope to answer all of your questions and work with you as you're on this terrific new journey. Before we turn it over to Steve and Linda, who I'm really happy that we have a parent with us, I believe this might be one of the first webinars that at least we've hosted here with the Flipped Learning Network that we've had a parent from students in an actual flipped classroom join us. It is important that we do get parents involved in this methodology that Steve and his team will be talking about. So Linda, I really appreciate you joining us today. But before we start, I just want to set sort of a baseline of parameters and get some definitions out there so that we're all on the same page when it comes to flipped learning and the flipped classroom. So the picture in front of you right now is a classroom that most of us have probably experienced at one time in our life, with the professor standing at the front of the room, all the desks in straight, neat rows, everyone paying intensive, concentration on the professor. I had the opportunity to teach 3 sections of college yesterday, and I can tell you this is not what the classroom was like that I was in yesterday. But we are moving to the next picture, where things are really interactive. You've got students literally out in the field doing a project-based lesson. You've got other students who are standing up doing what looks like maybe a chemistry or a science experiment. You've got students working in small groups, problem solving, and you've got a teacher sitting on the floor with her kids working on a very messy project. But at least when I was teaching, I know the floor was one of the best places where my students got their work done. So this is really where we're headed to, of that teacher-centered classroom to a student-centered learning environment. And you'll hear that phrase again. So on to the next slide. So we do distinguish between a flipped classroom and flipped learning, and so I'll just give you a quick definition, but we want to make sure that as an educator, as a teacher, you really adapt this to your own situation so that it works for you. So a flipped classroom occurs when the direct instruction, more often called the lecture, is moved from that group learning environment, also called a classroom, to that individual learning space. It might be at home, it might be on the library, maybe your community has buses that have internet connectivity on them, or maybe even your community center or your library. So again, it's just taking that lecture and time shifting it to another place. Now, for flipped learning, that's really where the teacher takes it to the next level, and that's where Steve Kelly is, and he'll talk about that in just a moment, about how he's really moved from that teacher-centered classroom to that student-centered learning environment. And on the next page, I think we have another example. We do call flipped learning an ideology, and keep in mind that it may take months or even years to get where John and Aaron are. So, don't think this is something that's going to happen overnight. And I know Steve will take some time talking about his journey as well. Really collaborate. And Steve and his colleague, Zach Cresswell, are going to be doing another webinar in December on collaboration, because they make the zaniest videos you've ever seen. And so collaboration is key on this. And I hope, Steve, that you and your colleagues will talk a little bit about this today. And of course, then you have the curate, create, and the hybrid videos. And I know Steve will talk a little bit about that as well. And Linda can chime in as well as a parent about her reaction to the videos. I think we have one more slide before we can skip this one and go to the next one, because we're just talking about how flipped learning is a bridge to somewhere. And I'm going back to those definitions that I just gave. If you're in a flipped classroom, when you're just starting out of implementing this, into your lesson planning, once you have time shifted your lecture, then you will have time for extended lab time, to do demonstrations, to, have mock elections, because you have your entire hour to, work with your students. Steve will really be talking about how in a flipped learning classroom, he, really works in that mastery learning mode and with problem or project-based learning, including peer instruction, which is really catching on these days after Dr. Eric Mazure's work. We have English teachers who just talk incessantly about their writers' workshops and how about they can get into the Socratic method just because they have this additional time, and they really are shifting it from the student to, from the teacher to the student. But again, I know we have quite a few administrators on this call today, so don't forget, flip your professional development, flip your faculty meetings, and of course, Linda will talk more about the parent and community relations piece, which is so important. So I just wanted to give sort of that baseline definition. You can find out much more about flipped learning on the Flipped Learning Network website. I know Steve and his team are avid followers and big participants, so we invite you to join our network as well. It is free to join, and for most of the webinars, just like the one you're attending today with our friends at School Wires. So with that, we can flip to the next slide, and I'm going to turn it over to Steve because I know that's why you all are here, is to hear him and his team. So Steve, take it away.
All right, fantastic. I do have Mr. Chris Macklin sitting in with me. He called in. He could hear us, but we could not hear him. So this might be a little awkward, but we'll do a little phone passing when he wants to talk about administrative things. So where is St. Louis, Michigan? We are right in the middle of the mitten. We're a small community out in the middle of a cornfield. Our population in our town is about 7,000. We graduate about 80 to 90 students every year from our high school. So people always ask us where we're from. Everybody thinks we're from St. Louis, Missouri, but no, we're in the pretty St. Louis. So I think every good conversation should start with why. When I did the National Board Certification process, I learned to answer the question, why am I doing what I'm doing when I'm doing it, and answer it quite in depth, especially for being a math teacher. That was a little bit of a struggle for me. But I want to start our chat with benefits of a strong connection between school and home. And just out of personal observation, I truly believe that my parents of students that are actively engaged with their learning with their student, my student is then much more actively engaged in learning in my classroom. And I don't care if it's race, gender, socioeconomic background. This engagement between parent and student is probably the biggest asset that I have as a teacher, or the biggest thing that I tap into. Now, we'll talk a bit about how that's a little different in the flipped learning environment as we go, and toward the end I'm going to give a whole slew of ways that I communicate with parents and try to get parental involvement in my classes. But I really think parental involvement can be just little things, just parents asking their student at the end of the day, how was your day? What did you learn today? You know, and by golly, you better be talking about my class in that conversation. But I think that it doesn't have to be, oh my goodness, I have to spend 8 hours with my student every night helping them with homework and doing all these things. It can be real simple things, and I think we as educators can communicate that better to parents too, especially in a flipped learning environment. Pretty easy to be helpful. You hit the play button, and I'm a pretty happy camper. You know, watch the video with your student. Linda, do you have something to add to that?
Just that I do agree. I think, you know, asking my children about their day, you know, if they have homework, and not just leaving it at that, but what is the assignment or what did you do? And, you know, if they're struggling with something, to have some conversations about that. I think it's made a big difference with my kids, I think, over the years.
This is Chris Macklin, the principal at St. Louis High School. If I might take a minute and interject something. Okay? Very good. From my point of view, one of the things that I've been asking all of my staff to work on is find ways to reach all different kinds of kids. You know, we call it differential instruction. One of the things that the flipped classroom does an absolutely remarkable job is it allows the teachers to give their lessons in small enough bites, and also, as Steve was pointing out, to be inclusive of the parents, and then for the students to come in and have the teacher truly drive the exercises of learning. So, you know, it's a small enough bite lesson. The students can have that discussion with their family. The students can then, in writing questions, they can be so much better prepared for the activities that are necessary for the learning. I think in the many observations I've had in Mr. Kelly's class, you know, Steve does an absolutely wonderful job of preparing the lessons in again, bites that the kids can handle, and then he's there to support the kids in the classroom in such a positive way. The kids feel great about the entire lesson. It's a very, very positive and supportive way that I'm, even in my older age, I've been 37 years in education. This is a very exciting and wonderful and innovative way to teach. I love it.
Yeah, I can comment too that both of my boys this year in particular have mentioned to me how supported they feel by Steve in his classroom. They really know that he cares if they do well, and that he's there for them if they have any questions or problems.
Just keep feeding me. All these, I just feel better about myself every minute. All right, so I think every educator on the planet would agree that a strong connection between school and home is one of the most positive things we can have. It sure makes my job a lot easier if I'm not trying to swim against the grain. But this is a little different in a flipped learning environment. And the number one thing that I think of is, even prior to some type of parent-teacher conference or whatever, I have been in your living room almost on a daily basis teaching, either in your living room or on your students' internet appliance of some sort. And so you kind of get to know me as an educator well before we ever meet in person. My parents know my teaching style. I'm a little goofy. I'm this long-haired, crazy old guy. But I think that helps with the connection, just because you can see me teach. You know what the learning environment is like. You know what to expect when you're talking to me. And I had something to go along with that one, and I lost it. But some of the things we do, Kari mentioned, are fairly zany that Zach Creswell and I do together, and so some of those I don't really want Mom and Dad seeing, but it is quite entertaining when we have our alter egos where I am 2 pi and he is 50%, and we do these crazy off-the-wall sports and really stupid things, but it motivates our students to watch the videos and gets them involved. So I'm in your home quite frequently. My parents do watch the videos, and I get comments on that quite. I've heard your daughter, Linda, say she has seen you watching me, even though she wasn't even around.
Yeah, well, she needed some help, and I said, show me how to get into the videos so that I can help you, because the language that I use to do this type of math when I was in school is completely different, and it just wasn't working for me to try to explain it using my words.
Well,
so
I think that's going to change. I think that's going to change again when we get the Common Core coming in here and the vocabulary changes. So I'm pushing my elementary teachers in our district to make flipped videos for parents. Here's the new way that we teach subtracting, and this is why we teach it this way. So when you have a third grader at home, learning long division or whatever, all of a sudden the parent can use the same language. And a lot of our parents haven't had long division in 20 years. So having a little refresher is of great value. So I'm pushing for a lot of parental flipped videos as well. My parents never come to me anymore and say, I can't help my student. And I got that for years as a math teacher. They passed me a year ago, and I can't help them anymore. Not all my parents are on the education level as Linda here. And so now my parents come to me and say, this is great. All I do is hit the play button, and we're good to go.
It's wonderful. Yeah.
It's a little awkward when a student will say, hey, Mr. Kelly, my uncle, the math teacher or the math professor from so-and-so is coming to Thanksgiving. We're going to watch some of your videos. It's a little intimidating knowing, hey, I hope my stuff is good enough, but you're putting it out there, and I think that's all right. One of the strange adjustments for the flipped learning environment, though, with families is it is a student-centered environment. And my students are much more in control of their pace in the mastery classes that I have, where they check out with me in order to move to the next section. We have a nice conversation about mastery, and then if they've mastered the topic, they move to the next one. If they haven't, then we will revisit it again in a different way. Not all my classes run that way, but it's a little strange for parents when the student and the teacher are asking different questions. My student no longer asks me, what am I doing today, or what are we doing today? I'm asking them, okay, what are you doing today? And that change in paradigm is a little bit awkward, but I think it's well worth it. Students are taking ownership in their learning, so I'm pretty happy. Okay, I apologize. Winging it is. I taught all day, remember? I'm a little bit on the tired side. So here are some of my students, and I was supposed to flip through those slides to keep you entertained while I was talking, and I got sidetracked. So strategies for, Chris would like to chime in here. Oh, no, I'm good. I'm good. Strategies for engaging parents. Now, we do have traditional parent-teacher conferences, and I'm not going to give Chris the phone the opportunity to have a rebuttal on this one, but I'm not a huge fan of our parent-teacher conferences. It's an arena style. It's very impersonal. The time we have with our students, with our parents, is very short. I also think we should change the name of parent-teacher conferences to student parent-teacher conferences. Is that the #1 reason we are here is for student learning. So why do we still have a closed-door meeting without them being involved? You know, the kids that I teach are young adults, and they should be part of that conversation and should be sharing their learning. But anyway, I get on my little soapbox. You know, we have traditional open houses here. We are a power school. We use that for our grading or whatever. So we get a huge traffic flow through our Power School account from students and parents watching learning progress. We are also a School Wires school. Since this is a School Wires presentation, I thought I'd give it a little plug. So this is we have a phenomenal webpage. Mr. Ben Goward, who does our webpage, he really does an amazing job. This is a great spot for resources for parents, a great spot to know when events are going to happen, what time they're going to happen, or if something major has happened, we'll put a little blip up there. He really does a phenomenal job with that. Inside that, each teacher has their own little web page here. This one's mine. I added to it this morning, but you can see my beautiful face there, and above it, that's how my students access the online videos. They click there, and it takes them to screencast.com, and or they can click onto my little Weebly site for pre-calculus, or they can take a Moodle test if that's where they've reached in Algebra 2. The big QR code right there is a link to an app for my Algebra 2 course. I created that on AppShed this summer, AppShed, AppShed, and I was really excited that I created an app. I'm kind of a moron, so if I can create an app, I thought it was great. By the way, the kids don't use it, but I thought it was a wonderful thing for me to create. And I just added something today, so if you end up on my site, down below, I think it's time that we as teachers start to share our stories more. And if we share our stories more on success and what we believe in education to be, the louder we are, the more we scream and shout, the better chance we have of changing education. And it's our time to change education. It's our time to take control of that. So if you look at the bottom of mine, it's not on this slide, but I just added some links. I will add the link to this conversation. I added a link to a conversation I had with TechSmith on education, and I added a link to a video of me presenting to the Michigan Board of Education a year and a half ago. I mean, I think even if a parent just clicks on it and sees that, hey, this teacher's going out and saying all these things and trying to put St. Louis on the map, and you know, I truly believe I have the best students in the world, and I'm going to tell the world that, and I'm going to tell them why I think they're the best. So I think that there's my little soapbox about that. We also have available, since Zach Creswell of Mount Pleasant, Michigan, and I developed the whole class together. After my first year of flipping in the mastery, I decided there's got to be more. There has to be more inquiry-based learning, more than just worksheets during the class. So he and I developed online videos for all of our topics together. And we created a Weebly site together. It was easier to do a collaborative site, we decided, than it was to do a School Wires site. So if you click on our Weebly site and go in there, it's not done. Okay, we're about a third of the school year in, maybe a little more than that, but we'll keep adding as the year goes on. If you click on, all of our videos are there embedded, but then we've also embedded another instructor's videos right below it. So if a student doesn't get the material from us, then they can watch maybe even a Khan Academy video. I know the Khan Academy and the Flip are, we don't associate those two completely, because we truly believe that the flipped class is not all about the videos. It's about what quality instruction you do in class. But sometimes these videos are really simple and easy to follow. Heaven forbid one of my students learns it from someone else instead of me, so we're trying to give them lots of options there. I now have Kevin Stedman in my room and Chris Macklin, so I think we had some issues with logging in today. Gentlemen, please feel free to take the phone from me at any time. I'm just rambling. Linda, same here. If you want to override me, go for it.
I'll be over in just a minute.
Oh, okay. Thanks. So we have Weebly sites. Some new things that I've tried this year for getting myself in everyone's home more often. I offer office hours online. So I'll say, hey, I'm going to be on a Google Hangout from 6 to 7 tonight, or 7 to 8. And if you want to come in and chat, it's like a little party line or whatever. A student can come in and chat with me about math, or ask a question, or ask homework, or I haven't opened that up to parents yet, but that might be kind of a neat deal. But I'm still experimenting with it. But the online office hours I learned from Zach Creswell, and I think there's a lot of power there. You know, I teach a lot of seniors, and the more exposure that they get to going outside of the classroom and asking for help, you know, or in other words, going to the office hours of the professor, I think that is of great value.
This is Chris Macklin again. I just want to interject something. One of the things that Steve is talking so much about in his comments is ways to help students alleviate anxiety. Think about all of the things that can be done in a flipped classroom. The students can watch a video and watch a video again, to have an opportunity to talk about it, get access to him online. Students no longer have to wait for hours and hours or even days to get their questions answered. So there's a lot of anxiousness that can be alleviated, because the flipped classroom teacher is a very, very open teacher. What's the most appropriate time to have your questions answered? Much of it is to get our kids. How many times do we as educators hear from parents and from kids they have trouble on tests because of anxiety? They have trouble completing projects because of anxiety. The flipped classroom creates so much of an improved level of communication between the instructor and the kids, and the kids and the parents, and the parents and the instructor. It allows people to breathe, get their questions answered more efficiently, so that they can relax. And when they relax, I'm telling you, and you all know this as parents and educators, you know that a relaxed student learns better. A student, one of the things that Steve was talking about, they have fun. When kids laugh, they do better. When kids feel positive, they do better. And the flipped classroom really lends itself, the environment, to a very, very positive experience for the kids. I'm going to pass the phone to Mr. Kevin Stedman, who is a math teacher in our building as well.
Hi, sorry I wasn't able to join you sooner. I'm just very excited to be here. Just want to talk a little bit about what the dynamic has done in my classroom. By flipping my class, and I say that because I'm in my second year of flipping, and so I'm just starting this program and pretty excited about it. But what it does is it gives my students and their parents tools to help them, both at home and here at school. And so one of the dynamics that I've seen as a result of this is that sometimes the parents have sat down with their child and watched the videos, and where the student might lack some of the problem-solving skills that we're trying to develop, many times the parent has those. And so even though they feel like they're not a very good math student, because it's been years since they've been in the math classroom, the parents feel empowered now. And that empowerment kind of gets handed over to the student as well. And it really develops kind of a team approach between the student, the parent, and myself. No longer am I the authoritarian standing in the front of the classroom basically saying, I am the expert, this is going to be the way it's going to be done. I'm helping the student to learn math in a new and an exciting way. And so it's very exciting to basically be helping students at their point of need, and to help them understand exactly what it is that they need to do next to bring their level of understanding and learning to the next higher level. And so it's been a whole lot of fun. So thanks.
All right. By the way, Chris Macklin just wrote me a note. Since I ripped on parent-teacher conferences, he said, I want student-led conferences, exclamation point. So I think I got my point across there. Maybe I'm winning on this one, huh? So back to my strategies that I use. I do the online office hours, and I'm trying that one. I've also sent a note home to my parents and said, except like this Wednesday when I'm busy, I'm going to stay in my classroom until about 4:15 every Wednesday. So if you want to come in and talk about education, you want to talk about your son or daughter, go for it. The last one I had, I only had one parent, but she stayed for 45 minutes. We had such a wonderful conversation. And it wasn't that whole 5-minute, sit and here's your student, this is great, it was what we're doing in class, all exciting, that, the traditional parent-teacher conference. It was a true conversation about why we're doing what we're doing and what the future holds, and I'm still excited about it. So I think that's okay. We stay after quite frequently anyway as educators. Why not advertise it once in a while? Market, hey, I am here. So I'm going to try that again. I kind of crashed and burned because I sent the note home with my students instead of sending it directly or emailing it to parents. And so I think, Linda, you ran into that when they didn't make it home.
No, with either of the boys, I didn't get home, so.
Yeah, they get demerits for that one,
yeah.
Something like that. I still send old school congratulatory letters home too. I try every year to send more positive notes home than negative notes, and I have great success with old school, school letterhead, Steve typed up, signed at the bottom in ink. I'm so excited, and sometimes I'll put a little note at the bottom too. Thanks for allowing, David to be in my class. And I really think those are of great value. I know it's the 21st century, but something coming in the mail, it's on a piece of paper. I see them at open houses for graduation all the time. One of my favorite stories, which actually kind of makes me cry a little bit, was several years ago I was at a jewelry store, a local jewelry store, which I don't know if we have that many of those anymore, but I walked in and it was one of the moms of a parent who had graduated several years prior, and she said, "We still have your note on the refrigerator." It was the only positive note sent home in the 12 years our daughter was at St. Louis Public Schools. I was crushed. But at the same time, I looked like a hero. So I truly believe that it's okay to still do those. I'm not a great phone caller. If you can hear me talking on the phone right now, I'm not very good at this. But phone calls are very effective as well. And, again, make positive phone calls. It doesn't have to be everything negative. And I have no problem. I live in my community. This is a small community. If you come to St. Louis, it is kind of like coming back in time. We're old, and we have a lot of small town values. But I have no problem if I bump into someone at the grocery store, or I bump into someone at the hardware store, and they want to talk about their son or daughter. I'm all for it. I think. Go ahead.
I agree, Steve. No, I just want to say that as a parent, we want to keep track of how our kids are doing in school, and you need to hear, they need help here, or they need to get their grade up there. But it's nice to hear the positive things once in a while too, because you like to. Be able to talk about that with your child too, and praise them and have those positive things to know what's working and really encourage those.
Definitely agreed. Little things like social networking, we're just starting to tap into that. My social network as an educator is almost all Twitter, and I have learned so much from Twitter. So I don't use it as much in the classroom to communicate with parents and as I should. And we have a couple teachers that are just experimenting with that in our building, and it's working well. I gave them some tips on, hey, maybe if you put one extra credit tweet out there and say, hey, please retweet, all of a sudden we had a new teacher on Twitter go from 12 followers to 50 within 2 hours. So it's just cheesy little things like that. You never know what you can do with the social network until you try. And if you are an educator and you're not on Twitter, go sign up for an account today. They're going public tomorrow. I think I should probably get some stock or free stock for saying that on air here. But I have really learned a lot. And if you don't, you say, well, I don't know who to follow, go into me, go into the Big KX country, and look to see who I follow, and pick a few of them. And if you like them, great. If you don't follow them. I pick people that tweet out things of value, educational value all the time. So I think I know teachers that have a Facebook page, and they do that. You can do all sorts of ways. Anything you can do to get yourself in the home
I think is a great thing. It's a great marketing tool as well. So parental observations. Linda, do you want to take over?
Well, I'd just like to say a little bit more about what Chris had mentioned about the anxiety that some kids can feel. And that was, testing anxiety was a problem with Rachel. And to be able to work at her own pace turned her math grades around once she got into your flipped classroom, Steve. And, you know, just being able to learn and relearn by watching the videos over especially helps, because the math just builds on a lot of what you've learned previously, so you can always go back to something and watch it again, and just as a refresher. It's easier for me as a parent to help because I can watch the videos too, like I said, using the same language that the instructor is using. I've had to help much less with math since my kids have had their math in the flipped classroom. I rarely get any questions anymore. I think they ask all their questions in class to you, and that's really the best way that you know, they can get their questions answered and work through the problems right with you there, Steve. And also I think because it's such a one-on-one instructor to student environment now with the flipped classroom, it really helps if a child may feel intimidated to ask a question. Maybe they think, oh, I should really know this. I'm going to be the only one that didn't get this. I don't want to raise my hand in front of the whole class. You know, just having that more one-on-one interaction, I think can really move things forward for a student and help them to truly understand the material and not just maybe memorize it as best they can for the test and spit it out and then move on, you know, to the next section.
Yeah, Kevin wants to talk about that for the one-on-one. Is that okay?
Sure.
A lot of what I'm doing in the classroom now is doing this one-on-one or small group, what's called a formative assessment, where I go in and I'm basically making sure or asking questions. I'm looking at the student's understanding as opposed to just simply looking at answers on a piece of homework paper. In the past, you know, basically kids would do their homework at the end of the class and go home and work on it and then turn it into class the next day. And then I would take it and then I would go and I would check it outside of class time and I would bring it back to them, and then I'd either have it correct or have a grade written down for it. And there wasn't a whole lot of an involvement between me and the student. And I wasn't always sure that they understood it. And so because of the flipped classroom, and now because I've got a tremendous amount of more time in the classroom to do these things, when the learning is online and they don't do that in the classroom, I can help kids at their point of need, and I can work one-on-one, and I can make sure they understand exactly what it is that's important for them to understand in this situation. And so it's been a great benefit to the student so that I know and they know that they understand exactly what they're doing. And it's been a wonderful kind of a thing. Mm-hmm. Mr. Macklin has a few things to say.
One of the very, very challenging demands that I've always put on my teachers as an administrator and even as a teacher as part of a team is no student gets left behind. The only way to meet the specific learning needs of the student is to give the teacher exactly what Kevin is talking about. The teacher and the student have to maximize their one-on-one time so that they understand. A student given the one-on-one attention of a teacher can really do a great job of explaining what their needs are. A flipped teacher that can spend a lot of time helping the student through the exercises, through the problem solving, can have such a very, very positive effect on how that student feels and they have their needs met. I must tell you that one of the things I have seen, one of the results I've seen from the flipped classroom is there are less students lost. There are less students having such great difficulty that they talk about they don't like the class. That's my least favorite class. That's my least favorite teacher. What I've heard more since I've had the chance to witness the flipped classroom is, this is my favorite class. I love this class. I don't mind doing the homework, which is a wonderful thing for an administrator to hear, that the teachers are teaching in a style that's just wonderful. And I encourage all administrators who listen to this, give your teachers an opportunity to learn about flipping classrooms. Help them find ways to get the materials that they need to flip these classes appropriately. It's not for everybody, but it's for a lot of them. And if we truly believe that all kids can learn, I'm telling you that many kids can learn in this way. We have to do our best with it. Thank you.
Linda, we kind of cut you off in the middle there. Are you still good?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I just had one other story. Just with Rachel going to college, she's a freshman this year, and she has to take some math in college, of course, and having the knowledge that she could always go back and watch your videos if she needed a refresher on anything really helped with the worry and the anxiety of taking a college-level math class for her. And also, she told me a story recently about a friend of hers that was having trouble understanding limits. So Rachel said, well, hey, let me pull up Mr. Kelly's video on that, and had her watch it, and the gal aced her test. So it's a lot more far-reaching than what you thought, and that's just, I thought, a great story.
So I'm not just beautiful on video, I actually have something of value too. Thank you.
There you go.
Yeah. I think that we as educators really need to stop and listen to parents more often. And a lot of times it's a one-sided conversation. We call them and we talk, this happened, this is what's going on. And we need to stop and listen to parents. And they have a much more global view of what's happening throughout their students' lives throughout the whole day than we do. We teach in isolation. We're down here in one classroom, and we rarely get to see anyone else. So I think if we stop and listen to parents, we as educators will get better as well. So, Linda, you are awesome. Thank you so much for being part of this with us.
Well, I appreciate you asking me. Thank you.
No problem. I couldn't think of anybody better. I think I'm going to gloss over the Dale's cone there. If you're an educator, it might not be a bad idea to go back and take a look at Dale's cone of why we do what we do and why we want the quality time in the classroom. People remember 90% of what they do. We need to have more student activities, more student projects, and a lot less lecture, and note-taking. So I'm going to pass the phone around for closing thoughts. All right, Kevin?
Just one quick thought I'd like to share. Last year was my first year going through the flipped process, and first semester my classroom was traditional. And I think of one particular student that first semester really worked her tail off, did not like math at all, struggled really hard, but ended up with a C- at the end of the semester time. Second semester, when I started the flip and she started being more empowered and working on her own and asking questions when she didn't understand something, she ended up with a B+ the second semester, and typically in geometry, second semester gets more challenging. And at the end of the year, she smiled at me and she said, I still don't like math. So that was a lot of fun to see that progression last year in one particular student's life, that it really made a huge difference in her life during that last year. So here's Mr. Macklin.
As I told you before, this is my 37th year in education, and I must tell you, and I've told all my teachers and everyone that is willing to talk to me about working with kids, which I love, every time I see something new, every time I see something fresh, every time I see something that's fun and exciting, it motivates me, it motivates kids, it motivates teachers. The flipped classroom is a new and wonderful experience. Everybody's got to try it. And thank you very much for everyone for your attention.
All right, I'm just going to say, if you're a new teacher out there, my closing thought is get that reputation of being a great communicator with home and family early, and be an open-minded person, be open to the public, be open to parents, and tell your story early and often. So I think I'm going to wrap that up, and we're going to go to whatever kind of questions we have here in a moment.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. Those were great little stories, and I truly loved having Linda as a parent involved, so thank you so much. That's great. Now we're going to take a few minutes to let everyone catch their breath and take a drink of water. For the audience, please enter your questions in the Q&A panel, and we'll get to your questions in just a minute. Kari, can you take a moment to go ahead and let everybody know what the Flipped Learning Network is up to?
Absolutely, and I just really want to thank Chris and Kevin and Steve, and in particular Linda, for taking time out of their very busy schedules after a long day and sharing their stories with us. And I think Steve is right. We need to tell more stories, and I like that idea of everyone putting something on your personal web page, which most teachers have already, about how you got started and how you want to work with your students and their parents. So the Flipped Learning Network, as I mentioned, is a not-for-profit organization, and on the next slide I think we talk about a few of the benefits that folks can read about and learn about if they're interested. I mentioned John Bergman and Aaron Sams earlier in the webinar, and this is the book that I mentioned, Flip Your Classroom, Reach Every Student in Every Class Every Day, and you can purchase it either on paper or for your e-reader. And their second book comes out this spring, and each chapter is written by an experienced flipped educator on their particular subject, on their particular grade level, and their particular methodology that they employ in their flipped classroom once they reach that level. So that one will be coming out this spring. I mentioned our community of practice. It's called our Ning. It's free. We hit 16,000 people on it on Sunday evening, so we are growing very quickly. Sign up for it and then come back in, set up your profile, pick your group that you want to be a part of. If you're a first-time flipper, if you're a math flipper, I think there's even one for Michigan flippers. So, and there's a huge discussion strands to answer most of the questions that you all have. So please utilize that community of practice. It's there for you and by you. At the Flipped Learning Network, just like this webinar that we're doing today, hosted by School Wires, we have other webinars that we host. There's just a few that are mentioned there. We have a 3-part series on the Common Core State Standards. We have a couple coming up on collaboration. We have them on subject specific. I know we had someone ask about elementary classes. We'll have one in early 2014 specifically on early elementary, so join those. If you are looking, if you're the principal or an administrator of the school, you probably want to have the data behind you, and we have that. So look under our literature review. We have one-day workshops that we are doing all the time, so take a look for those. And we have a course that we offer if you really want to bring it into your school and go deeper. So just a few of the high-level things that you can find on our website. The final thing before we pass it back for some questions is that everyone is invited to attend our annual conference. And this will be the 8th annual gathering for both beginner and experienced flip teachers. We have different strands depending if you are new to this or if you're an old hand at this. We will be in the Mars area. It's near Pittsburgh. We will be at the Mars area high school, which is near Pittsburgh, and so not a bad drive for most of the country, so or easy flights into the Pittsburgh area. The call for proposals, which we are always interested in hearing from you. All of our sessions are by teachers, for teachers, and registration will open here at the end of the year. So we really want to invite you to participate, and Steve always participates in one way or the other, so we'll have to get his colleagues involved this year as well. So I think that's the end of what I wanted to spend a few minutes talking about. And so if we want to go to the next slide, I think that might be the final, flip to the next one then, please. And I just want to, again, thank School Wires for hosting this. They have a couple of other webinars that are coming up, so I just want to let you know about those. And I'm going to turn it back to Deborah, who will be leading the Q&A.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kari. So we have some great ones in. Just wanted to remind everybody now it's your time to get your questions written in that Q&A section. First question. we've talked a lot about students and the classroom. Now some questions are coming in about actual flipped meetings for parent involvement. So maybe we start with Steve and then go on to Kevin. How are you doing your flipped meetings for parents in order to engage them more? If you could give more detail.
Oh, wow, I'm behind on that one. I hate to say it, but Kevin, she's asking us how we do our flipped meetings for parent involvement. And you know, at this point, I'm going to grovel a little bit and say, that's a great idea, but I'm not there yet. And I think that I could do more. I'm not a huge fan of sending home videos and things. That's one of my big things is I sell what I do to my students and have the students, you know, communicate with mom and dad as best we can. It doesn't always work, but for the most part, I sell what I'm doing all day long, and if they go home and talk about school, that's what I want them to talk about. So, Kevin, do you do flip me? He's shaking his head. He doesn't want to answer that one either. Sorry about that, Deborah. So you got us. If you do flipped meetings, email me a link so I can see. Give me some ideas, and I'll run with it. I love learning new things.
That's great. Linda, I'm just winging it right here. If they did offer flipped meetings for parents, what kind of things would you like to see?
I was just thinking about that, and it's a new concept for me. So I'm assuming that it would be sending a video home, some sort of message, or Steve, help me here, what it would be. And then if we needed to contact you with information afterwards, we could follow up.
Every year we have to do an anti-bullying. What are we doing at the school? How are we going against bullying? That'd be a great thing to flip. I mean, you can offer the face-to-face time, but why can't we offer a video online on things that are mandatory as well? Why can't we offer a video to mom and dad about all of the activities we have available for their students? You know, there isn't a whole lot to do in St. Louis, Michigan. It's easy for kids to get in trouble, so we try very hard to get them involved in things in school. We have a ton of things. So I think that's a great idea. We could make a video on all the things that are available. Kevin's saying we could do a financial aid night, financial aid information from the counseling office.
Oh, that actually would be a great idea, because I remember going to the very long meeting in you know, that I had a year or so ago, and having something where you could get all the information and then come together with questions afterwards would be wonderful. And there's so many ways on social media, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, to get this information out to the parents too.
Definitely. I'm one of those people who wants that earlier than in life. I want to know, how am I going to finance my daughter's education? I'd rather start working on that when she's a freshman or sophomore, and yet those meetings are for seniors, you know, or juniors, or at least that's who we usually contact. So if we had some resources like that, it'd be great. Chris says SIPA, the cyberbullying, that would be a great thing.
Well, and something like that with the anti-bullying, as a parent, if I could sit down and on my own time and watch something like that, it would give me a talking point to have, you know, with my children later, to say, hey, you know, did you see this, or what are you doing at school, or what do you think about this? So, you know.
I like that too. A video that just brings up talking points, something that spurs conversation at home. I like that a lot. Chris, we also have on our sheet of notes here career planning, or how to pick the right college. I think all of those things are wonderful. Deborah, did we get what you wanted there?
Yeah, I think those are great ideas. Thank you. So we have some other questions. Where or how does a school start implementing flipped classes?
Okay, I'm going to tell you right now, I have the greatest administrator on the planet. Mr. Macklin, he really wanted more teachers flipping in our district. So he went to the admin, and he shook out the piggy bank, and he found software, hardware, and professional development for a dozen teachers last year, and that was our start. So how do you start? You get people that want to do it. You get the right equipment in their hands. Everyone has the same laptop. Everyone has the same software. Everyone has the same microphone. We're all going to work together, and we're all going to host our videos at the same site on the screencast.com or wherever you decide to put them. And well, that made a huge difference. I mean, and it was not cheap. I think I did the PD, and I think I spent $1,800 on every teacher because we got them the Cadillac of everything. And so anything that will make flipping easier, that's a great place to start. If your admin is on board and you pick teachers that want to do it, you're going to have a better shot at making it work. If you mandate it, it's not going to work. Yeah, Chris just said we spent $17,372.86 on it, and I think he gave me a $17,400 budget. So I got it right down to the penny. The school credit card was denied several times when I went over by a few cents. But that I think is the greatest place. Number two, I love talking flip things. Email me. We'll talk on the phone direct. I don't mind. If it's going to help you, I'll do it. So email me, contact me. That's, I'm the Steve Kelly one on the list. I don't mind. I do this all the time. So I'm good with that one. Where do you I think that was the question also, do you start high school, elementary, or whatever? Is that true?
Right.
Okay, I'm going to pass that off to Chris. You want to talk about that? When do you start? You wrote that down a minute ago. Elementary, high school.
Oh, one of the things we were talking about the parent flip a little bit earlier, there is an advantage in the parent flip vocabulary. The core, science, English, math, social studies, has very specific vocabulary that is learned from the first grade on, I would say kindergarten as well. That vocabulary piece, the vocabulary that we use as teachers in the classroom needs to be communicated so that when parents are talking to their kids, helping them with their homework, we're using the same words. So that can happen as early as absolutely possible. Let me share one thing very quickly, that $17,372, if we flip and we draw 2.5 students into our district from a surrounding district, we just made money. So by flipping and encouraging people to come to our program, we flip 2.5 kids in here, 3, 4, 5, because it's an exciting way to teach. We didn't lose money, we made money. And I could give Mr. Kelly a raise maybe, I don't know.
Do you start in the elementary school? Yeah, I have no problem with flipping the elementary school. Just make your video shorter. If it's a 4th grader, make sure your video is not over 4 minutes. 3rd grader, make sure it's not over 3 minutes. Go by the minutes. Is it okay? We started with 11th graders. Is that okay? Sure. You just kind of start somewhere. I always tell people, flip 1 unit of study, flip it well, and come up with quality things to do in class. And do it right the first time. Don't spend time trying to make a video for everything. And John Bergman will say the opposite. He says, do all the flip videos your first year, and the next year get better, and the following year. I like to do it. Let's do 1 quality unit of study so you get excited about it and the kids see value in it. So I don't know if we answered your question, Deborah, all the way, but those are my...
Yeah, that's great. And then one last question I think we can squeeze in here. Are there some classes that are not ideal for flipping?
I've done PD all over the nation for flipping, and I do get that question, because I'm a math teacher. A lot of my talks are math-oriented, but I have met teachers in all disciplines doing amazing things that I've never thought possible. I've met PE teachers flipping, where they'll flip rules and flip anything where a teacher repeats himself or herself is flippable. It's crazy that we repeat ourselves over and over all day long in a lecture format. Flip it. We have teachers flipping things they get questions all the time about the papers being an MLA style. So we have 1 video we use for our entire school on MLA formatting, and we all use it. So I think those things are things of beauty. It doesn't have to be just for your class. I have yet to find a class that I say, well, I probably wouldn't flip that one. I will tell you that our Spanish instructor here, he's a phenomenal teacher, and some of his upper level is flipped, but he has videos available for all of his courses, even though he still teaches Spanish 1 in a traditional format. He's up at the board, he's an active presenter, but then there's that backbone
that the student can go home and watch him again and rewind and start over. So there's nothing wrong with that too. I don't know what else you want for an answer there.
That's perfect. You guys did great. Thank you so much. So for all the attendees, look for our email with the webinar recording. And thank you for those great questions. Thanks again to our panelists. We really appreciate you taking the time and effort to put this presentation together. I know you are all so busy, so thank you very much. We've enjoyed having you with us. And if you want to learn more about how SchoolWires supports flipped learning, visit our website at schoolwires.com/flipped. And if you have any other questions that you think of down the road, go ahead and email us at sales@schoolwires.com, and we'll get those answered for you, or we'll point you in the right direction. So thank you, everyone. We hope you've enjoyed this and you've learned a lot, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.